Super shitty. Hey guys, if you're wondering why I'm all sweaty, I'm filming an 80s dance video, but right now the connection went out. So I'm gonna make another video at the moment. It's kind of personal. It's a very personal video. I don't usually do personal shit, but like, I feel like that this is important to, I don't know, get out there. If like any other teenager, not even a teenager, if anybody could like, I feel like if I could help anybody that's going through this like I did, that would be amazing. But yeah, I don't usually do personal videos, but this one's gonna be completely unedited, so you're gonna see my messy, sweaty self. Yeah. So as you know, April is Autism Awareness Month, and I'm just gonna say it. I have autism. Um, I have Asperger's syndrome, and yeah, and this is gonna be in my life with autism. Um, so for people who do not know what Asperger's syndrome is, Asperger's syndrome uh, was diagnosed by somebody called, I think, Hans Asperger back in the 1940s, where he saw children viewing autistic-like symptoms, but are fully developed in language and knowledge. So, this is called Asperger's syndrome. And Asperger's syndrome is a form of autism. It is high functioning. And for people that don't know what high functioning is basically you, your mind is fully developed. You could learn the same as everybody else, but people with Asperger's syndrome, and I'm not saying that this happens for everybody with Asperger's syndrome, because everybody that has Asperger's syndrome is different. But it basically is a syndrome which people, I'm trying to think, people are sensitive to lights, sounds, and textures. Like some people with Asperger's can't stand bright lights, others can't stand sound, and others can't stand like a woolly or scratchy texture. It just actually makes them uncomfortable. People with Asperger's tend not to look people in the eyes because, not that they don't want to, but it makes them uncomfortable. They tend to repeat things that they've already said several times, which is also known as scripting. People with Asperger's tend to obsess over certain topics that maybe other people normally don't talk about, and they don't get social cues. And what social cues is basically like not directly telling somebody something. So like if I'm obsessing over something and I'm talking on and on and on about it, I may not be able to get you rolling your eyes or crossing your arms or saying something, like that's annoying. I won't be able to read that, because I have a hard time reading that. People with Asperger's syndrome often don't get sarcasm. They take everything pretty literally. People with Asperger's syndrome are often, sometimes they end up getting depressed and anxiety. Often get depression and anxiety. They can go into sensory overload and have meltdowns, autistic meltdowns, and they don't know how to interact socially as well as others do. And so that's basically a rundown of what Asperger's is, and in the end, I'll tell you about the positives of Asperger's. But right now, I'll tell you my personal Asperger's story. When I was never really a normal child. I was actually born 5 weeks early, and the doctors thought that my lungs were to collapse because I was born so early. So I guess I was like semi premature, but like I'm not. But I was, big enough to go home with my parents. And I wasn't really a normal kid. I was very hyper. I often said things randomly without thinking, and nobody else would get it. Like I'd say like potato or something, and I think that was hilarious, but nobody else would get it, And I had a very hard time looking people in the eyes, and I don't anymore actually. I think it's due to like just as the years go by, I don't have a problem looking people in the eyes anymore. I can like stare at somebody in their eyes for 3 minutes, and I mean I wouldn't because that's creepy, but I can now. I'm gotten so much better at looking people in the eyes. But back then I'd always look down at the ground or something, and I still do sometimes. But not. It's very rarely that I look down at something while somebody's talking to me. I cannot stand loud noises. Like my mom would bring me to McDonald's, and I would just cry. Because it was just all the people talking. Just it annoyed me so much. It was just too much for me, and I would just cry, and they'd have to take me out. I couldn't go see the fireworks until I was around 7 or 8 because it was too loud for me. I couldn't go to the movie theater as a kid because the sound was too loud for me. Um, I didn't like classrooms or restaurants because it didn't hurt my ears, but it just gave me the biggest headache, and I would cry, and then I would go home. And they would take me home, and I had severe separation anxiety. I remember my aunt told me that she was going to babysit me because my mom had to go somewhere, and I cried from the time that my mom dropped me off to when she picked me up. So yeah, and so my mom knew something was off about me. She didn't know what. So basically, she took me to the doctor when I was about 5 years old, and I got diagnosed with ADHD, which I actually have. I actually do have ADHD. But even though I was taking medication for my ADHD and some of the symptoms went down because those are my ADHD symptoms, there were still problems that I was having. Like, I was bullied a lot, because I was weird. I didn't dress like the other kids. I always had the frilliest dresses. And although like jeans and t-shirts were popular, I liked to wear dresses, and they get made fun of for that. I didn't really know how to stand up for myself or talk to people. And so and I was just very socially awkward. I only had a couple friends. And so then my mom took me to a therapist because I mean, I'm sure doctors can tell if you have Asperger's syndrome, but they took me to a therapist. And when I was 7 years old, I was diagnosed with Asperger's. And I didn't exactly know what Asperger's was until I was around 10 or 11 because my parents didn't really want to explain it to me, I don't think. And they didn't think I would actually know what was happening. I just thought it was just more ADHD medication, but it wasn't. And then came my most severe of my Asperger's quirks, my obsessions. It started in third grade when I saw the movie Titanic for the first time. And not only did I love the movie Titanic, no, I researched everything I could about the Titanic. Anything, everything. I got books from the library. I always go on the internet. I've probably seen the movie Titanic alone 200 times. I'm not even joking. Like a lot of people like to over exaggerate, but I'm not joking. Every fucking Friday night, I would watch Titanic. Every Friday night. It was bad. But not a lot of people in third grade were interested in the Titanic as much as I was. And I would just go on and on and on and on about it. And I didn't know that annoyed people. Because people would roll their eyes and then make fun of me, and I wouldn't get why. Because I couldn't read the social cues. And to this day, obsessing over things is my worst flaw when it comes to Asperger's syndrome. My mind, it's called hyperfixation, when your mind just focuses on something and wants to know everything about it and talks about it again and again and again. So yeah, that's still my biggest flaw I have to deal with. What else? It would go from Titanic to the movie Jaws to horror movies, specifically Halloween, the John Carpenter version, to heavy metal bands, to Michael Jackson, and now it's Tim Curry. So it's gone everywhere. I don't necessarily mean to do it, and it does hurt sometimes when I talk about it so much because it gets to the point where people with Asperger's, they may not want to talk about it as much as they do because they may understand that it can be a problem socially, but they literally cannot help it. It's something that they can't help. So I was bullied a lot for that. I didn't feel like anybody could understand me. Um, and then in fifth grade, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety because I often have fits of crying for no reason. I didn't know why. I was just sad, and I was this is personal, very personal. But by the time I had a lot of family troubles, like my little sister, I love her, but she has anger management issues, and she would often lash out on me. And even though she was 4 years younger than me, she was heavier than me, and she's even taller than me now. She's 14 and I'm 18, and she's taller than me. So she often lashed out at me, and that would cause my entire family to blow up at each other. And and if I said anything, I would get yelled at. It's just the way my family is. It's a lot better now. It's gotten so much better now, but the time it was like every day I would get hit, by my little sister, bitten, scratched, whatever. And on top of that, I was being bullied at school. And I felt like if I said anything about the bullying to my parents, they wouldn't care because they already have, they just had so much of a burden with Allie. So I don't think that they would care about my problems. So I often kept it to myself. Um, when I was 11, this may surprise some of you guys, but when I was 11, I was self-harming. By the time I was in sixth grade, I started self-harming. So I was 10, 11 years old. And that is actually extremely young for people to self-harm. The national statistic for like teenagers that self-harm is around the ages of 12 to 13. That's where it starts, and I was 10. And I would often leave suicide notes and everything. I would try to overdose on pills. Um, Sometimes my dad would bring home alcohol. We're not really an alcohol drinking family, so nobody really drank alcohol in the house. But the rare times I would literally drink it by myself when I was home alone by the time I was 10. So and I would cut myself. It was bad. Thank God I got help for it, and I'm 6 years clean now. Actually, no, I'm 7 years clean. I haven't cut myself in 7 years. But I still sometimes to this day have suicidal thoughts. But I've learned to cope with it in a healthier way. But yeah, but my Asperger's is completely taking over my life, and I was ashamed of my Asperger's. I wish I wanted to be like everybody else, but I wasn't, and it wasn't something I could control. It was beyond my control, and so flash forward to a few years. My best friend at the time decided to stop talking to me, and I've had some bad experiences, and I spiraled down further, and then flash forward a few years now to now. Um, I am not ashamed to have Asperger's. There's some things that I still want to change myself. Like the only thing that's down for me is obsessing so much over things. I wish I didn't obsess over things so much. I wish I was better at that. But other than that, I'm not ashamed of my Asperger's. I've learned to grow past it. I've learned to not let my Asperger's define me. Um, it's just who I am. And like my mom says, it's my deck of cards that I've been dealt, and everybody has their own deck of cards. Um, yeah, and I'm really proud of myself. I've come a long way. I'm now able to go to heavy metal concerts and listen to loud music and talk to a lot of people without it bothering me. I'm able to function better socially. I have an incredible group of friends. I have an incredible boyfriend. I have an incredible family that always supports me. Um, and I've really turned my grades around. Like because of my Asperger's, I wouldn't study as well. I didn't really pay attention. I would get D's and F's, and now I'm A's and B's. And I feel, oh, excuse me. I feel like I'm complete. I feel like I can do anything, and I'm never gonna let my Asperger's define me. There's still things that I still want to change, but it is what it is, you know. And I think that without my incredible support group, you know, my boyfriend, my friends, my family, I don't think I'd be where I am today. Um, and a lot of people make fun of people with Asperger's because most people that do like school shootings or mass murders do have Asperger's, like Elliot Rodger and the guy that Adam Lanza, and I think the guy in the Aurora theater shooting, he had Asperger's too. And a lot of people say that people with Asperger's are going to be school shooters, and that's simply not true. Even though I have Asperger's, and I do love horror films and gore, I've never, ever, ever once thought of shooting up a school or just killing somebody. I've never thought that. I mean, of course, I like if my sister pisses me off too much, I'm like, oh, I want to kill her, but you know, I never actually think about getting a knife and like, stabbing her. You know, so that's completely false. And there's a lot of positives to people with Asperger's. There's many famous people out there with Asperger's. Some of them include Dan Aykroyd, Albert Einstein, Mark Twain, um, Andy Warhol, um, Daryl Hannah, and my favorite is Stanley Kubrick. Uh, and the positives of Asperger's, there's positives too. People with Asperger's, I'm not saying that they're more intellectually superior to others because that's simply not true, but people with Asperger's tend to pay a lot more attention to detail than other people with Asperger's. We tend to be very focused on certain things. So that's why we pay so much attention to detail because of our hyperfixation and focus, you know. A lot of people with Asperger's are extremely creative and unique. That's why a lot of celebrities have Asperger's because they took their flaws and they developed it into something very creative. And I'm going to create a field myself. I'm becoming an interior designer, as you may know or not know. I am a freshman at the University of Bridgeport. I'm actually wearing the University of Bridgeport jacket right now. And I am majoring in interior design. That's what I want to do. We're extremely creative. They know a lot of things. A lot of people Asperger's know a lot of things. They may not be the most important things, like 81 times 81, but I can tell you the day that like Michael Jackson first appeared on MTV. Like you know, a lot. We do know a lot of unnecessary details, but we do know a lot, and you know, and we're just normal. I mean, we're like normal people. Some people suffer some more severe forms of Asperger's syndrome, where you can clearly tell if somebody has Asperger's. But like me, like people, like the people that I've told that I have Asperger's literally were surprised because they didn't know. You know, I don't take any special ed classes. But some people with Asperger's do take special ed classes. That's okay. Just know that that's okay. You know, I don't judge somebody for taking special ed classes or not. You know, but you know, it just we're people too. And if you've ever had Asperger's or you know somebody with Asperger's or you want to share or vent or do whatever, please comment. It would mean the world. And just know that I will always be here to fight for autism and autism awareness and autistic rights and everything. And I support you all so much. And yeah, so that's my life with Asperger's. So peace.